Good morning. I'm Ken Biberai, and welcome to Coffee with Ken, a thought leadership series at the nexus of business and politics. In the news today, Russia has suspended gas supply to Poland and Bulgaria, while Anthony Fauci has announced just yesterday that the United States is out of the pandemic phase of COVID-19. Today's topic is solving for the last mile, and we're joined by Ita Zur, the co-founder and CEO of Veho. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show, Ken. Good morning.
Well, it's great to connect. And full disclosure to anybody watching, we here at Savills are helping Veho think about their national expansion and growth. So we're pretty excited and enthusiastic already about where they are and what they're doing. And the way I want to kind of start this off is 2 years ago, I was in Israel for a Savills retreat, and we saw Yuri Levine there, right? And he was the founder of Waze. And somebody asked him, how did he come up with Waze? And he said, well, I was in traffic one day and I got really pissed off. And if I only knew what the people in front of me could see, then I can make different decisions on the route I took. And that's how we kind of came up with it. Was there an aha moment for you that you were just like, I'm so frustrated, I'm so angry, this is a problem, I'm gonna devote my life and time right now to solving it? Like, did you have that moment?
I actually did. Yeah, I was in business school. This is back in 2016. And, so I'm Israeli born and raised, by the way. I moved to the US in 2015 to go to business school. And in Israel, back in the day, e-commerce was not a major industry. Now it's growing really fast. But back then I was not very familiar. So moved to the US and I got familiar with the subscription, the meal subscription services. And I decided to buy a subscription to one of those companies. Everybody knows the company. And this is a Monday. So I'm, I come back from school. This is evening, waiting for the box to arrive. I was told it would arrive on a Monday. So my refrigerator was empty and the box never arrived. No tracking page, nobody to speak with. And I went to sleep hungry. True story. And the following day, I called the customer service team of that brand that I purchased from. And I said, hey, I never got the box. And they replied, well, you have to call this shipping company that was supposed to deliver it. So I called and I waited on the line for 40 minutes and nobody answered the phone. And I had this aha moment that I said, how in the world will e-commerce brands continue to compete and keep loyalty, keep their customers loyal? If the logistics, if the delivery section is so separated, is so disconnected from the brand experience that they want to provide. You buy online and you're immersed in the brand experience and you develop these expectations, and then you are being failed by some shipping company. And I said there has to be a better way to connect the dots for shipping to be an extension of the brand, not an off-brand experience. And that essentially, coming from that realization by my own experience, that essentially made me start this company.
Fascinating. So let's talk high level. So what exactly are you trying to solve for with Veho, and where do you fit in the puzzle of e-commerce distribution, logistics? And I think logistics is the operative term here, right? Like, I think people are focused on, supply chain. It's all about logistics, right? I mean, so where do you play in and what are you solving for?
So Veho is a logistics technology platform that puts the customer in the center and facilitates the delivery all the way from the warehouse of the brands that people buy from online to the customer door and back when a customer wants to return something they don't like it, they want to exchange it to something else. And the way that works is the customer is in control over their delivery, right? So with Veho, the customer can choose when and where and how to receive the box. They can communicate with customer service in real time. They can leave feedback in real time that the system learns from. And what that essentially ends up being is that those customers, we've done lots of A/B tests around those. And those customers who receive the box through the Veho platform have a higher customer retention, higher customer lifetime value, higher net promoter score, and in meaningful numbers compared with customers who receive the box from other shipping companies. So essentially, we partner with e-commerce brands to cross the chasm from buying online to receiving that package. There's a big chasm there that I was talking about, my own experience. We help those brands cross the chasm, extend the experience all the way to the customer door, and with that make the customer more loyal. And that's why those brands choose to work with us. And that's how we're different essentially than anybody else in the space.
Wow, that's fascinating. So right now the space is what? If you're a retailer, you can sell on Amazon and they have a multitude of ways to get it to you, or you're using USPS, UPS, FedEx, right? Like what are the existing opportunities for the Warby Parkers of the world that you support today? How do they do it?
Yeah, essentially the small merchants have the ability to sell on other platforms. When we talk about mid-size or larger e-commerce companies, they want to own the customer, right? They want the customer to go to their website, they want to be able to communicate with the customer. They want to be able to make the customer love the brand and be loyal. And so those brands do not tend to sell on Amazon more so shipping with UPS, USPS, FedEx, the national carriers essentially, and there's also lots of regional delivery companies out there, right? And where Veho is different is that Veho is designed for the needs of the customer in the 21st century, right? Starting not from the logistics, but starting from the customer experience. The thing we ask ourselves every single day is, what does the customer want? That's how we started the company, and that's how we're building. So the culture, the technology, the operation, and we can double click on each one of them, is all designed around that customer experience. We facilitate next day delivery, and we do it with two main metrics. Number one is on-time delivery rate, where we average 99.9%. That's by far the highest in the country. And the other one is average customer rating. We ask, how great was your delivery experience from 1 to 5 stars? Every time a customer receives a box, we average 4.9 out of 5. Again, by far better, than the alternatives in the market. So that's why those e-commerce brands that you mentioned look at Veho as an alternative, a solution that really represents the brand and partners with the brand to elevate their own goals.
Yeah. So let's dive into the experience, right? So you literally, as the consumer, can have control of when it gets delivered, right? Like, you'll be as granular as like, hey, we're going to drop it off at 3 o'clock. No, do it at 5. Oh, not my front door, drop it at my back door, right? Talk about that. Like, how granular can the consumer get on the delivery and receipt of a package?
So they can get very, very granular on instructions today. When a consumer receives a box, when the box is on the way, they get a message from Veho. It says, hello, we're at Veho, we're delivering the package, or we're facilitating the delivery for this brand or that brand. And the consumer can then leave instructions. Hey, I'm not going to be home today. Can you bring it back tomorrow? Can you leave it with a neighbor? Or here's an access code to my building. And by the way, don't leave it in the mailbox. Bring it all the way back up to my apartment 323. This is how you use the elevator. The thing is that, and I've had these issues, and I'm going to guess everybody has had those issues, right? You've had those issues before when you were expecting a box and they never arrived?
Yeah. Yeah, or it's bent up, or it's broken, or it was just like thrown out of the truck and it's set far into the driveway or whatever. I mean, everybody has it.
Something. And if the thing is, we buy more and more online, right? The whole premise of this business was that e-commerce has become, this is back in 2016. I thought that e-commerce is going to become a bigger and bigger piece of our lives. And now we see that for sure, right? The trends didn't start then, but now it's very, very clear that many of our shoppings are moving online. We know as individuals, what is the likelihood that this is going to fail? Where do other shipping companies leave the package? Why does it get broken? Does it get late? Do we not know where it is? And so essentially what Veho does, it gives the customer the control over leaving those instructions of exactly how I want the package to be delivered so it's successful. So we remove the entire anxiety and we make it a pleasure. So that's number one. And the other thing is obviously to reroute the package to a different address. I'm not going to be home. Can you bring it somewhere else? Reschedule it for a different day. And as we go and build the system, and the system gets more and more sophisticated, and we go deeper on the customer experience, yes, we want to be able to enable the customer to tell us exactly during the day. Do you want it between 10 o'clock and 12 p.m.? Do you want it between 2 and 4? Do you want it in the evening? Should we push it to the following week? That's how granular we want to get around this. That's
incredible. And talk about how you do it, right? Like, you're leveraging on-demand drivers. Like, what does that look like, right? So a retailer will send you a package. Talk about the journey. How does it get to that consumer at the end of the day, and what's unique about your model?
So Veho, as you think about other alternatives in the space, Veho facilitates the journey of the package all the way from the warehouse of the e-commerce company to the customer door and back, right? So it's not an on-demand, it's not a point-to-point, it's not only within the market. We're actually facilitating the transportation from city A to city B and all the way to the customer door. That hopefully gives you a sense of the breadth of our operation. We're doing this, by the way, in 19 cities in the US right now. We're expanding really quickly. We're going to go to 50 by the end of the year. So the way that works is when a brand decides to use Veho for shipping, they will leave the packages at the warehouse, usually pallets. Veho will facilitate a pickup with a truck. The truck brings the packages to a warehouse that we operate. Veho operates with our own team. Packages get sorted into routes. And then to answer your question, we have a platform of driver partners, individuals in their own vehicles can sign up. And they are offered, there's routes on the platform they can choose to drive and deliver those packages in their own time, on their own terms. They're in control. They have visibility of how much money they're going to be making. They have flexibility. They have complete control over their own experience. And actually, that's one of their missions, is not only put the customer in the center, but also put the driver's partner in the center and create a great experience for them. They're excited about driving with us.
It's funny because sometimes I try to articulate to folks who your customer is, right? And I think it could very clearly be like the retailer, it could be the on-demand driver, or it could be me as like the consumer at the end of the day. I mean, so like as you think about a business model, I mean, was that always clear to you, or did that evolve as like, oh wait, you actually have a variety of different customers that all must be kind of taken care of to achieve your objectives?
This is an interesting question. When I ask myself what excites me, I mean, a lot of things excite me personally. I'm excited about investing in people and growing people and getting mentorship and giving mentorship, but I'm also excited about a wowing experience. You know how you go into a store and some stores like wow you. You go on vacation, those incredible experiences was something that I always was very attracted to and always wanted to bring to the world. And so in my mind, everybody we interact with is essentially a customer, right? The customer that receives the box is a customer. The brand is clearly a customer. They're the client of ours. But the driver partners, they have many opportunities nowadays. Gig economy has grown so much. They can do ride sharing, they can do restaurant delivery, they can walk somebody's dog, And how do we stand out? I think the way we stand out is, number one, the business model, the operating model is such it gives them more visibility, more flexibility, complete control over their schedule. It's next day, they know where they're driving, they choose about all those kind of things you don't get in other places. But also we're building a brand and an operation that is centered around them as customers. So not only it's a personal excitement of mine to provide a wow experience to all the stakeholders, it's also a competitive advantage for Veho, because when you put people in the center, when they feel that they're valued, they would want to come and drive on time. They would want to stay longer on the platform. They want to provide an incredible experience. And if the driver partner doesn't provide a great experience, I mean, they're actually driving. They're doing that work that makes the customer experience great, right? So that's why we put them in the center at the same level as the customer.
Yeah, and how much of a competitive advantage is it that you have the ability to kind of turn the faucet or off based on demand that day, right? Like you think about UPS, FedEx, other competitors out there, they own trucks, they have on staff employees with salaries, et cetera, right? Like, so that must be, how does that all play out as an advantage for you in the long run as you're scaling and growing at such a rapid pace?
One of the most unique insights about e-commerce, and not a lot of people know this intuitively, is that the number of packages that go out every day in the United States fluctuates significantly based on the day of the week, based on the season, clearly during the holiday season. And once in 100 years or so, there's a pandemic, so volume really gets crazy. And when you think about it, companies, the national shipping companies or built in the 20th century, when they operate trucks, for example, right, they have the same number of trucks every day. They have a little bit of flexibility that they're building during the holiday season, but for the most part, it's the same number of drivers, same number of trucks every day, right? So when you have very big days, then sometimes the capacity is not sufficient to deliver all those packages. And that's where when you sometimes expect a box and you expect it to be delivered same day, next day, 2 days, quite fast, you don't get it on time. There's delays and all those kind of things that creates frustrations. And a lot of customers blame the brand that they bought from for those frustration, whereas it's not really the fault of the brand. It's lack of flexibility in the network. Now, compare that with a Veho platform where the capacity is completely flexible, right? So, there are days with tens of thousands of drivers on the road driving on the Veho platform. And then there are days where the demand is lower, then Veho has fewer routes. And so there's fewer drivers. And what that does, it essentially allows us to facilitate a 99.9% on-time delivery, which is by far better than anybody else who is facilitating deliveries for e-commerce companies, essentially. And that's table stake. When a customer knows that they're going to click a button and the package will arrive tomorrow, not to mention they can communicate, leave instructions, they can return it from their door if they want, they can give feedback, that creates a wow customer experience. So hopefully you see how the operating model with the flexibility actually bakes into providing an incredible experience for the customer.
So let's talk about your existing customers and clients, right? You mentioned meal delivery kits. How many do you have? What types of companies? Is there a size requirement, dollar volume? And what is the potential market of e-commerce brands that you could now service?
Well, let's start with the latter question about the potential size of the market, right? And as you think about e-commerce, last year or 2 years ago, it was the first time that the e-commerce volume, shipping volume, actually exceeded non-e-commerce volume. So the majority of packages moving around the United States right now are e-commerce, right? And e-commerce is also growing incredibly fast, 15-20% a year. And that's been consistent for many years. Actually, during the pandemic, it accelerated. And then you look at the size of the national shipping companies and the regional. Only in the United States, this is several, hundreds of billions of dollars per year. So the size of the market is just enormous, right? And it's only going to get better and bigger because number one, the economy is growing. Number two, people are shifting their shopping habits from buying in a store to buying online, essentially, right? So that's how big the market is, essentially. Now, as you look at Veho aims to serve all these categories. Any brand out there, any brand that understands fundamentally that by delighting the customer, by living up to customer expectations, that customer is going to develop loyalty, they'll come back and buy more, is a brand that we want to work with, we want to partner with, right? So as you look at the categories we serve, it's not just milk delivery companies or perishables. We work with accessories, we work with apparel companies, we work with baby stuff. And those are just the cosmetics. Those are just a handful of categories. And you look at the world of e-commerce, there's many categories out there. We work with brands in all sizes, small, enterprise, mid-sized market. Those essentially all those brands need a solution. But again, the point is that they need to fundamentally understand the value of providing incredible customer experience. And when they do, that's a phenomenal partnership for us.
It strikes me just on the real estate perspective, just being out in the market, looking at macro trends. For office, there's like a 15 to 20% vacancy rate in office space. For industrial, around the country, it's like a 1 to 3% vacancy rate. And it's one of these things where I think in this country, we've kind of view it as a victory when we upzone certain areas that are traditionally industrial. At a time where now the supply and inventory of industrial space is dramatically lower, while the demand is basically endless, right? Like, I mean, e-commerce, I think I very much agree with you. If you look at China and overseas, e-commerce is dramatically higher than it is in the United States, even though we've had this exponential growth, especially through COVID. So how do you think about these kind of macro trends and how they will enable and strengthen Veho moving forward, right? Like a retailer, no matter how many retailers want to get into what you're doing, they just won't be able to. They won't be able to find the space. They won't have a national platform. It's just not really possible, right? So like, what gives you confidence moving forward with some of these macro trends?
Well, first of all, I think the trend is at least partially driven by the consumer expectations around e-commerce. E-commerce, just to be clear, e-commerce is not the only reason that there is such a big demand for industrial real estate right now. There's other industries that are growing really fast, but e-commerce is certainly one of them, right? And so from that standpoint, it's actually a very good thing because it's an indicator that the industry is changing. It's an indicator that consumers want to receive their stuff faster. They're now willing to live up with to be okay with a 5 to 7 day delivery. They want the packages to start from a place that is closer to their home, so that the shipping platform can provide faster delivery, right? So that's a good thing for us. That's a trend that we're building on because Veho is designed for very fast and reliable delivery, facilitating that by providing a great experience to the customer, right? So that's number one. So the question is, how do we capitalize on that? And so the way we build our own company is flexible and nimble, right? So Veho, the kind of people that we hire, the kind of teams that we build, the kind of KPIs and metrics are all around being able to move fast, problem solving, and make speed a competitive advantage for us, right? And so while real estate certainly is a challenge, from that standpoint, that everybody wants the industrial real estate. And I can tell you that we started last year in 3 US cities. This is back in 2021. We ended the year in 14. Now we're in 19. We're moving ahead really fast to be essentially in every US city in about 2 years from now. And we have the goal, a massive goal, to go to 50 markets by the end of this year. And we're doing this incredibly well despite the circumstances. So I would say being nimble and being flexible and having a playbook is something that is a competitive advantage for us and allows us to capitalize on the situation.
Nice. So you've had a couple of massive raises in the new year. Talk a little bit about that. How much did you raise? The types of VCs and partners that you've kind of attracted. They are mainstay kind of who's who of the VC world. And how are you deploying that capital? How do you plan to spend those dollars to enhance and enable this growth?
I can tell you for years, this is a little bit of my entrepreneurial story, but for years it was incredibly hard to raise money. So just so the listener.
Wait, how can it be hard? you were like, I'm going to compete between Amazon, FedEx, and UPS and just slide right in the middle. How could that be not a compelling story? I mean,
no brainer. Here's $100 million. Go and do it. Exactly.
Why would that be hard?
The first years of the company, I mean, telling that story was just incredibly hard. Nobody believed. Actually, let me take it back. There were a few early investors in Veho, and most of them were just individuals who have done things in their lives. And they had a little bit of capital, and they wanted to invest because they believed in some major vision. Former CEO of FedEx supply chain, UPS executives, business executives. But other than that, it was really hard to raise money because VCs didn't believe that was possible. And what they needed to see is that inflection point that Veho is actually able to scale to more markets and able to maintain the 99.9, 4.9, right? The on-time delivery average customer rating, and that the brands love it. And they just give us more and more volume. And, more than that, the economics are healthy and all those kind of things. So while it took a long time to get to that point, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, if you like, we got to a point where actually we're able to tell that story really well. With massive growth over the past year and a half, we've grown our revenue 60 times. We've expanded for 3 to 14 markets last year, and now expanding more. Clients love us. We have no churn. And so with that story, we were able to tell that story effectively to some of the top VCs in the world. And we feel privileged to have partnered with VCs like General Catalyst, who led our Series A, and in that round we raised $125 million. And 6 weeks later, we raised our Series B. The excitement was so big, and we wanted to capitalize on this big momentum. And then we closed another round, and we raised $175 million in that second round from Tiger Global, from SoftBank, and other investors who are already investing in our business. An example is Construct Capital, led by Rachel Holt, Blink Capital, Origin Ventures, Fontanelles. We have lots of investors who invested early on, and then now they're playing again. So all in all, raised $300 million. And incredibly excited to have some of the best VCs in the world who have seen such playbooks in other countries and have perspective about what makes great companies, and then we can learn from to make Veho one of the greatest companies in the world. And that's really what we want to do.
That's great. So talk about where you're going to be in 12 months, 5 years. It's going to be global. Talk about growth. Like where do you want to be if you could predict the future?
We always start with a customer. I'm not thinking about growth from the expansion standpoint only, but also from like what kind of services are we going to provide to the end customer in 5 years' time that will make Veho a great company, right? So now let's imagine a little bit. What does the world look like 5 years from now? What do people want? So for sure, people want their packages faster and faster and faster, right? Because it's becoming such a big deal of our lives. But want to be able to be in control, as I mentioned before. And we talked about choosing delivery times during the day and that kind of thing, return things from your home. But I think really what people want is they want to be able to communicate in real time around any issues that they have. So to remove any headaches around delivery and make it just a pleasure. And if you have an issue in real time, and if you have a question, not just about the delivery, but also about the product itself, you want to return something, that conversation takes place really fast. We can anticipate the needs of the customer. And by doing that, we provide an incredible experience. Not only like you go to the store, but better than going to the store, right? It's just seamless. And by doing that, facilitate different business models where e-commerce companies can, ship multiple colors of a shirt to a customer, let them try different things and return it really easily, keep what they like, those kind of things. So to do that, we need to build the network. We need to build the technology. The network is a network of warehouses everywhere in the country, facilitate, the transportation from city A to city B all the way to the customer door. And actually, this is 5 years in the future. We want to be able to do this everywhere, definitely in the United States, but everywhere, to answer your question, right? We want to be the e-commerce logistics platform of the future for the needs of e-commerce customers and their brands. And to do that, we need to build our technology. We need to build our warehouses. So right now, the things that we're doing, we're building automation into our warehouses, right? So to be able to move things around faster, we are investing heavily in technology around the driver partner platform to make it more attractive, to create wow experiences for the drivers to stay with us longer. Analytics, a customer experience around giving the customer more optionality about what they want to be able to do with their box. And actually, recently we acquired, this was announced about two months ago, we acquired a company named Quick Return. who is building a solution for returning things from your door seamlessly. They were doing this in New York City, and they were doing this with bikes, so also a very sustainable solution. And that's one of our goals for the organization. But the idea is that we want to be able to scale the return solution to all our markets by the end of the year. So essentially, we're providing a full cycle experience all the way from the brand's warehouse to the customer door and back. And that's what it looks like 5 years in the future, everywhere, by going deeper on the customer experience.
And how much pressure do you feel from your clients today who are saying, okay, you're doing a great job in these markets, why aren't you in these markets yet? I mean, is there kind of increasing pressure to kind of, help them? Because it's fascinating, I think, about your growth that makes it a prudent model, as opposed to some companies maybe that have grown so fast. It seems like you already have line of sight of potential volume ahead of entering a market. So you almost kind of have it from a real estate perspective, like a tenant in tow, you're kind of like baked in, right? So how does that help with it? And how do you kind of balance those competing interests?
Yes. So even last night, I got an email from one of the CEOs of our clients, and the person asked me, how do we make it possible to expand to more markets faster? And that's not the first time I was asked this question. Actually, this question is quite consistent. And I have relationships with the CEOs of most of the companies that we work with. And one of the things we want to understand is we build we're not a vendor, we try to be a partner, right? We want to understand how they think about the evolution of their business, what are their needs, what their customers are asking for, and essentially tailor the solution for them as well. And so this is consistent. Those brands want to grow with us to more and more markets, and we want to be able to make it happen. And by having that partnership, yes, you're right. We have visibility into what is the expected volume from any one particular client as we launch into a new market. That helps us plan, right? How do we think about expansion? How many driver partners should we onboard on the platform? How many people do we need to have in the warehouse? Where to locate the warehouse in the city? All those kind of things give us a massive competitive advantage when you build that type of partnership.
That's amazing. So as fast as you're growing physical real estate, you're also growing with headcount. Talk real quick before I let you go about talent, your growth, maintaining and building culture. I can tell it's so important to you and the numerous colleagues on your team that I've met. I mean, how do you do it?
Every 6 weeks now, I have a meeting. My favorite meeting of the month or of those 6 weeks is welcome new Veho teammates meeting, where I get to spend an hour with new folks who join our company. It used to be two or three people. Actually, I used to have breakfast with every person that we had that joined the company. And I went broke pretty fast because we grew so fast. We decided not to do this anymore. Now we have 50, 60 people joining the call every time. And we grew from 15 people, back at the beginning of the pandemic around that time. Now we're about 850 people, teammates at Veho. So the growth is incredible. But I guess the point I wanted to make about that meeting is that it is so important for us to bring, number one, not just the best talent, right? The best to build a great company, but also people who are completely aligned with what we're trying to bring to the world from a value standpoint. And values and culture are at the core of our mission. We want to transform the world of package delivery by creating exceptional experiences for customers and drivers. I talked about that. But we're also building a human-centric culture. We want to humanize logistics. We want to put the human in the center of everything we do. And how do we create opportunities for our own teammates to grow their careers and be the best they can be, so that by the time a teammate decides to leave, they can run for president, they can start their own company, they can be a community leader. That is why really I started a company business. This is why I wanted to be in business. This is why my co-founder Fred wanted to be in business. And that's what we're all about. So we have those values that essentially enhance that experience. Candor, having candid conversations, giving and receiving feedback in a respectful way, teamwork, putting the we before the I, right? Ownership. Think about yourself as a CEO of the company. How are you going to grow your role to be the best you can be, make the company the best? And then ultimately human. How do we make human-driven decision? We put the human in the center of everything we do. We don't only think about business. We don't only think about logistics. We think about human beings as a core value to make this a great company. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for individuals who want to grow their careers and do something great, greater than themselves, build one of the greatest companies in the world, transform an industry, but also people who are passionate about building a community where everybody can grow and succeed, no matter where you're coming from. Diversity is incredibly important for us. And that's all. That's what it's all about. It's in the interview process. It's in the first meeting they have with the CEO. It's in the all-hand meetings. It's in the culture. That's what we care about.
That's amazing. Ita Zur, co-founder of Veho, a logistics company, a real estate company, a tech company, a transportation company, servicing consumers, retailers, and everybody else. Real pleasure. I appreciate you taking the time to come on today.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity. I really enjoyed it, Ken.
Now, and I look forward to a real life coffee with Ken in person when you're back on the East Coast. In the meantime, our next coffee with Ken is going to be next week with the governor of Arizona, Doug Ducey. In the meantime, please visit coffeewithken.com to catch up on past sessions and sign up for future ones. Until then, we'll talk to you next time. Thank you, Ita.
Bye.